Alright, what is up guys, Azura here, and today we're here to take what will probably be the last deck profile of this month, but worry not, next month is, God forbid, fucking fishing season, so, I'm sure whatever I don't cover this month, I'll probably end up pushing over to next month, because I do not want to cover like 5 fish decks, so, yeah, worry not, if you wanted to see, DI, Alt Mile, Asha, I'll probably do this next month too. The only one I'm not certain about that is Asha. But today we're here to take a look at Chaos Breakers. So Chaos got support in the previous set as well, in the Ultimate Stride set, the set 10 set. And I didn't cover it last month because I figured it would get more support this month, and I was right. So here we're going to take a look at like 2 months worth of support for Chaos. So without further ado, let's take a look at the list. So first off, we'll go from top to bottom as per usual. So first off, our starter of choice is this new thing. Don't ask me for his name as per usual, but his skill is CB1, retire it. So CB1, he kills himself off. Check top 7 cards of your deck, and choose a card with Chaos from among them and add them to your hand. Then, if your opponent has a locked card, randomly lock on your opponent's rear guards with priority to back row. So this card can help you it's mainly used as a ride fixer, or a way to get to your ride. But later it can also get you stride fodder, and then once grade 3 onwards, this thing can also be used as an extra way to lock a card as well as grabbing stride fodder and stuff like that. So I think for that reason, it's probably the best starter for this deck. Your other starter of choice would be the old guy, the one that searches a grade 1. I think that's fine too, because Zinc on demand is also really good. But I personally prefer the consistency of this starter over the basically the Zinc Searcher. But yeah, starter pretty solid. And as for grade 1, usually I wouldn't talk about PGs, but I will talk about this time because I'm playing the CCPG, and I think it is actually fine to play the Starvader PG. I think that one does lead to can potentially lead to deck out, because the skill of the Starvader PG is when the PG is procced and your opponent has 3 or more locked cards. You draw 1, not optional, and the issue with that is obviously it's a forced draw, but for the most part, if your opponent has 3 locked cards, they were probably not checking you to begin with, so it shouldn't be an issue. But you never know, and but the upside to that PG is that it is a draw, so maybe the 1 extra card makes a difference. But the major upside to that PG is that it is Starvader name, so it is usable for a discard fodder, and that is something that I wish the CCPG was. But on the other hand, I think the CCPG is also pretty good, because sometimes you just need that 1 extra CP to do something. And you don't actually want to be turboing out your Zincs, because deck out is still a concern with this deck. And Zinc only turbos that, gets you to it faster. So I think the CCPG and the Starvader PG both have its ups and downs. But I'm mainly playing this because I don't even have a playset of that PG for some reason. So, and I don't want to craft it. So yeah, I think either PG is fine. I'm just playing this one. And then next off, we have Zinc, the best grade 1 in the deck. If your Vanguard's a Chaos and your opponent has a locked card, put it into Soul, CC 2, and Soul Charge 2. So gets you your resources. This deck burns through Soul really fast. The Soul's very appreciated. It's plus 3 Soul. She also goes into Soul. CB also gets burnt really fast in this deck. So being able to just recover both the resources is very good. I think this card is banned in the TCG, so no surprises, it's a good card. You just get a bunch of resources for free, which is really nice. Next up, our one of is this guy. I don't know his name, but he is a Starvader. But his skill is when this unit boosts and your opponent has 2 more locked cards, CB1 and he gets plus 4k, and then if the battle that this unit boosted hits a Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and Omega Lock it. So the Omega Lock is cool, but obviously if you want any way to unlock it, i.e. Harmonics, they can just get rid of it and you burn a CB for no reason. But you know, sometimes you don't want sometimes just forcing them to go into Harmonics is a good enough reason to do it. But we're mainly playing it just because the plus 4 can scale a column sometimes, and the Omega Lock is cute. But yeah, just Flip 1 slot can be realistic whatever you want it to be. I was playing Lanthium for the longest time, but like I think this card can have its uses. But yeah, just to fill out 1 of. And then finally, our last 4 of is the Stride Fodder for Starvader. So skill is Hand. If you're paying the cost for a Starvader Stride, which is basically everything in the G-Zone minus Harmonics and Stark. But you're paying the cost for a Starvader Stride, and you have a Starvader Heart. It gets plus 2 grade in hand, so counts as Stride Fodder. And then Drop Zone when this unit is I think it's when this unit is used as cost for a specifically a Chaos Stride. Use Soul Blast 1, check top 7, add a Chaos from among them to hand. So this card can dig use more Stride fodder for next turn, and there's a very specific Chaos you want to be ideally tossing the Stride every single time, so this card helps you get to that. But yeah, this card is very solid. Stride fodder and bonus effects are always good. Unfortunately, this one does not search your ride, but the second effect will get you more Stride fodder once you actually get to that Stride, so pretty solid card there. And then that's it for your 1s. Grade 2s, you're playing a 1 Radon. It's locking whatever you want it to be. I just very much like solo attackers in this deck, so just a 1 of him. 4 Colony Makers on play. See if your opponent has a lock card. CB1, search for any grade 1 or lower Starbaiter from your deck and call it. And I'm not playing any Starbaiter grade 0, so search for grade 1. And the only thing you ever want to call with this is usually Zinc. If you're really desperate for a booster and used out of Zincs, obviously you can call those as well, but your main target off of Colony Maker is Zinc, and this card acts as your 5th to 8th copy of Zinc, and quite good. Card you definitely want to see, as I was playing 4 of it. Next, we're playing 4 Irons. He's always good. Solo attacker, Vanguard's a Chaos, because it's plus 2k. On place, your Vanguard's a Chaos, and your opponent has a locked card. CB1, choose one of your opponent's rear cards and lock it. So, solo attacker, extra locker, very nice. Not GB locked as well, meaning if you go first, you can use Crisis's on place to lock a card, and then use him, and then he's online now, so you can lock a front row with it. So, very nice there. And finally, the last 4 we're playing is this big chonker dude. Very, very bulky man, but his skill is on place. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or higher Starbaiter, so you get the following 2 abilities. This unit gets plus 3k, and then if your opponent has a lock card, he gets an additional 3k, so he hits up to 15 by himself, and then at the start of your opponent's turn, they choose 1 card from their drop zone and place it onto a rear circle as locked. So CB1 to be a solo attacker is kind of iffy, but the power is always nice, obviously, because if you have one lock card, hits 15, so 15 plus any 7k booster with skill for defensive, so that's always very good. But we're mainly playing it for the drop zone to lock skill. Obviously, your opponent has the choice of what they want to place to that effect, but this card is still reads CB1 put a locked card onto a circle. So even if they get to like reuse that card, or they put a resist down so you can't kill them in the next turn, it's still clogged up a circle, meaning that's one more circle they can't use to place cards out of hand to lock. So just with this guy, they might be forced to like fill out their entire board of lock circles instead. So because of that, I think the card's really good. I was playing the other new guy that gave your opponent the choice to lock from hand before I was playing him, but I just found that guaranteeing a locked circle or forcing a guaranteed lock circle is just better than giving your opponent the choice. Because more often than not, a good player will just give you the draw instead. Because the other card skill is on attack CB1, and then at the start of your opponent's turn, they either chose to put a card from the hand as locked, or gave you a draw. And any smart player will just give the Chaos player the draw instead of putting a card from hand as locked. So yeah, that is why I'm not playing that anymore. And finally, for grade 3s, 4 heal guards. I really wish these were Starbaiter name for this deck specifically, but they are not, so what can you do? We're playing 1 of the old Chaos just for name reasons. This Chaos is terrible, you don't ever actually want to ride into it. I think you are perfectly fine with playing the Chaos Van Fixer, the whatever the double rare Chaos. You can play that if you want, but I'm like, whatever, I have this one, I'll play this one. Next, we have your main ride being the Chaos Breaker Crisis. So his skill is if a card was unlocked during your opponent's end phase, you can Soul Blast 1 to pop it and draw 1. So basically the same skill as the old Chaos's Limerick 4, but this one's not tied by Limerick, so it's really good there. Soul Blast 1 pop and draw 1 is always nice. And then on place or when a Starbaiter G unit strides, so very important here. When you stride Stark, you cannot use the skill, but on place or when your Starbaiter G unit strides, CB1 and lock one of your opponent's rewards with priority to back row. So on place, you got free lock, very, very nice there. And your main ride mainly because of obviously sharp one skill is very nice, but the draw one is also really, really good. So these 2 skills together make it a really, really good, makes it your ideal grade 3 ride. And your last card, which may not be your ideal ride, but still a fine backup ride, is the Chaos Breaker Close. So his skill is on place or when your Starbaiter Gina strides, you can discard 1 Starbaiter from hand. If you do, Soul Charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and lock it, and your Vanguard gets plus 10k. So the difference here is that this one costs a discard instead of a CB. But in exchange for that, you get extra soul, which, like I said, is very important for this deck. This deck needs a lot of soul. So you get extra soul out of it. You get, the lock is choice, so you can actually choose to lock a front row with this. And plus 10k, meaning your bang is even bigger, but your band's usually already big enough, so this power is kind of whatever. But if you're going first, you can use this. You can still, because you make your band really big, that's really nice there. But issue with this is that this Chaos does not have the pop skill, which means you'll get cards back in hand. This card is constantly negging every turn you want to use a strike bonus, so you notice a trend there. You'll probably run out of cards in hand if you use this too many times and don't draw cards back. So that's why it's not as good of a cost. And yeah, mainly that just doesn't draw cards back and the cost is worse. But the reason we're mainly playing this card is because of its second skill. So drop zone. When this card is put into the drop zone, if your heart is a chaos, so your specifically has to be a heart, so you have to be on a stride. So basically when you discard him, so when he goes to drop zone, this card effect will go off. So basically if you toss it to stride, that's your main way of getting this card to go off. But the skill is Soul Blast 1 at the start of your opponent's next turn. They choose one card from the hand, place it face down, and put it onto the board as locked. And then this skill is locked to hard once per turn. So you cannot dump like 4 of these in a turn somehow and then just make your opponent lock 4 cards. So you can't abuse it like that. Fun fact, if you stride and then overhand a copy of Close, his skill actually works. I don't know why it works like that, but I guess he technically got discarded. Not off cost or anything. It doesn't actually specify cost or anything, just has to hit the drop zone from hand, I think. And technically it went to your hand and it just went straight to drop. So fun little tidbit there is that if you overhand the a copy of Close somehow on stride, this card will actually not this card will actually prompt. It came up for me once. I don't remember how it happened, but it did come up once, so it's pretty cool there. But yeah, you're mainly playing this because it is your ideal thing to toss for stride and for any other cost you might have. The other glaring one obviously is the Glue Ball Avalanche. Or not Glue Ball Avalanche, just the Glue Ball Dragon. So yeah, forcing point card lock off from hand, very, very good. So yeah, and that's it for the main deck. For the G Zone, 1 Harmonics. I'll go over the not Chaos stuff first. So we're playing 4 Glue Ball Dragons. So his skill is, once per turn, if your heart is a Starvader, so blast 1, G Persona flip, and discard a Starvader from your hand. And for every face-up card in your G Zone, choose one of your opponent's rear guards with priority to back row and lock it. So basically, throw strike armor, it just locks the entire board, so very good there. And then GB3, if you're playing the lock card, all your front row Starvader units get plus 3k. So turns everything into a solo attacker, and you can scale your stuff. So very good there. For just full board lock, very, very nice. You don't go into both pairs too often, but when you need it, there is nothing else in the G that replaces it. So because of that, I'm playing 4 of it. And then for all the Chaos strides, so I'm still playing 4 Universe, because Universe is, in my opinion, the card you go into the most frequently, and I kind of want 2 pairs of it for that reason. So Universe's own skills, once per turn, CB1, G Persona flip, again the following 2 abilities. At the start of your opponent's next turn, they choose 1 card from their hand and place it face down as lock as long as your heart is a Chaos. And then you have 2 more face-up cards in your G Zone, choose 1 of your opponent's rear cards and lock it. So forces the hand lock and can lock a rear on second strike onward, so very nice for that. And then we're playing 1 of each of the other Chaos strides, 1 Alththani and 1 Deluge. So both of these cards are not G Persona flips, but they require you to flip a Chaos named unit for cost specifically. So what happens for me most often than not is basically on my first stride, your first stride will almost always be either Alththani or Universe, depending on the board state. So depending on what you're going into, you will pay for cost for that. So if you're going to Alththani, you will almost always flip a Universe for that, and then afterwards you'll just have an odd number of universes, so you can't go into it twice. So the extra one will just end up being cost for the Deluge. But if you go first stride, Universe, you stride to flip, then you have 2 more universes in G Zone. And then depending on what you go afterwards, you would choose depending on the situation if you want to, for example, Deluge flip Alththani, or Alththani flip Deluge, or Alththani flip a Universe instead. So basically what you flip over cost for these 2 is basically dependent on the game state. And in my personal opinion, the thing you will go into the thing you'll go into twice most often will be the Universe. That's why I'm playing 4 of it and then 1 of the other ones. But if you don't have 4 Universe, it is perfectly fine to play like 2-2-2 if you really want to. I think that's fine too. You just flip differently according to the situation. Like you'll probably go like Alththani flip Alththani, or like Deluge flip Deluge, or Alththani flip Deluge, etc., etc. But for my personal play testing, I personally find Universe as a thing that gets strided into 2 times the most often out of these 3. So that's why I have 4 Universe and 1 of each of Alththani and Deluge. But I guess we'll actually go into what these cards do. So Deluge's skill is GB3. Once return, if your heart is a Chaos, Soul Blast 1, flip a unit with a Chaos name from your G-Zone face up, and gain the following 2 abilities. If your opponent has 4 or less damage into their damage zone, choose one of their lock cards and place it into their damage face down. So you just choose a lock card and slam it into their damage. They just take a damage. Damage shield does not occur, so they don't get the plus 5k because it wasn't actually a damage check. So very nice for that. It can help you push, but it does get rid of a lock card, so it kind of sucks there because that circle is now open. So usually you want to be slamming back row into this, but sometimes you just want to slam up row just to get clear so you can actually hit face. But yeah, pretty situational skill here. Doesn't actually come up too often, so that's what's only one of. And then his other skill is at the start of your opponent's next turn, they choose one card from the hand and lock it. So still has a hand lock, but then the little ping skill is actually pretty nice. It's something that only Deluge does in the G zone, like a really easy way to push. So for that reason, we are playing it. But again, it doesn't come too often, so we're only playing one of it. Alright, next, the newest addition to the deck is the Alththani. So Alththani skill on place. If your heart is a Chaos, Soul Blast 1, flip a unit with Chaos from your G-Zone face up to lock 2 units, lock 2 rear guards with priority to the back row. Then, if you could not lock 2, you draw 2. And then I think if you lock 2, you give 2 plus 2k, something like that. So basically, if you end up locking 2, cool, that's the end of the skill. But if you lock 1 or 0, you draw 2 cards. So a very common board stage, your opponent has like 2 cards on the board, like your starter, and then assuming go second, like they have like a starter and just like a great 2 in the front or something, right? You can use Crisis Strike bonus to lock the thing in the back, and then use Alththani afterwards to lock the 1 front row. And since they could only lock 1, you draw 2. You do lock the 1 and you draw the 2. So that's how this card works. Pretty nice. It's a first stride. It's usually just your first stride, but afterwards, if you don't need to lock that many. Like you can choose to go into the Alththani instead of the Glue Ball Avalanche if you just needed to lock like 2 cards. So pretty nice for that. And yeah, that's it for the G-Zone, and that's for the deck profile part of this video. And I'll have some games guys after this, so I will see you guys there. So for our first game, we are playing against Chaos. Oh, not Chaos. We are playing Chaos. We are playing against DI, and something you'll notice very much when you play this deck is that with Chaos, the matchups are very, very lopsided. The matchups are either very, very, very favored for you or very unfavored for you. There is not really a whole lot of matchups where it's pretty like back and forth. It's like even on both sides. It's either your opponent can deal with your mass locking or they can't deal with their locking at all. And DI as a deck is a deck where if your opponent knows what they're doing, can easily clear out their entire board every single turn, fairly consistently, and can actually deal with this deck. But if they don't know what they're doing, this matchup is I think pretty unwinnable for DI actually. So my opponent here does not know what they're doing, as you'll see later in the game. They give me like a bunch of CB to play. They give me CB to play with. They give me a bunch of locks and all that. So yeah. So my opponent did not know what they're doing. So this matchup was quite easy for me, as you'll see. This matchup ended up being very unwinnable for my opponent at some point. So yeah. And oh yeah, I guess I also forgot to go over Stark in the G-Zone in the deck profile part. Stark is actually very important for the deck, in my opinion. I think it is one of the decks that actually need their Xerath Dragon. So yeah, Stark, very needed. It is the only way Chaos can actually end games. It doesn't come up every game, but in the games where you need it to come up, it was the only card that can actually end the game for you. So because of that, I think Stark is absolutely required if you want to play this deck to a good degree. Obviously, if you play without it, you'll just notice a lack of a finisher. But I think that lack of finisher is very, very important. So yeah. So here, see, the deck still plays relatively slow. You don't really do a whole lot early game. Ride pass. If the opponent lets you. If not, maybe you slide down like an extra rear to contest their rears. But yeah, not a whole lot going on early game a lot of the time. So here you see me ditch the close. Close is almost always your preferred stride fodder target for the deck. And here you see me first stride to Alththani. So here we'll go. Yeah, it doesn't matter here, but we go close. So lost 1, and I start opponent's turn. They lock a card from their hand, and then here you'll see me flip. Yeah, so here it really just depends on what you flip with Alththani on first try. It really just depends on what you think you will go into more. And here I decided I probably will not need the Deluge in this matchup because I'm trying to just lock the entire board down every single turn. So I figured that I didn't need the extra. I don't really need the way to push with the deluge. So I'm gonna flip the deluge, and if 2 universe comes up, I'll have the 2. So yeah, what you flip really does just depend on what you think you'll go into more every single game. And here we use the starter to try to dig for the close, and we do find it. And this is the main thing you want to find. You want ideally every single turn until you ultimate stride, if you even need to. You want to be using close, ditching close to stride every single turn to lock their board out. So here you go rear, and just go face. And my opponent has one. They have to lock 1 card out of hand here. And I definitely probably thought about using the grade 2 locks from drop, but 1, he has no drop zone. But 2, I probably just want to save CB to make sure I had enough to play with for next turn. But rule of thumb is basically until you are planning to save CB for ultimate stride, more often than not, 1 CB for the next turn is usually enough. So as long as you have a way to actually get your CB back with zinc and stuff. So yeah, I think the major thing with this deck is basically just managing resources. Make sure you don't deck out, and managing resources enough so you actually like have enough resources to actually do stuff every turn. Like I said, in the deck profile part of the video, Soul is very important and CB is very important in this deck. So managing resources, making sure you have enough of both, and making sure you don't deck yourself out is probably like the main thing you need to consider when playing this deck. And then obviously matchups, you just need to know your matchups well enough. But some matchups you just can't win. Like, I personally think Neo Nectar is pretty much an unwinnable matchup for this deck. Everything they have has resist. The new Blue Asha can put circles back to deck, so they can clean up their lock circles as well. And I think that the matchup is just generally very, very unfavored for Chaos. But looking at matchups like this, you know, they can't do anything and they're just gonna die. So yeah. And my opponent, he does this thing. I don't even think he hits me for damage here. That's lock circle. He has that specifically Gwyn to actually hit me here. So yeah, he doesn't have Gwyn to just swings, and that stuff his stuff unlocks. He does no damage clears on my rear. Uses the thing. So this is one of the things I was talking about. The new Shahar can at the end of turn suck something in every single turn. So that's how they can clear out their circles. And along with other rides such as other strides such as Blader Mouse can clear your front row as long as you suck triggers in. The old Shahar stride can, or I guess the only Shahar stride, can suck in your front row too after attack. So this deck does have ways to like clear out its circles, but my opponent clearly did not clear out his circles. So now he has a bunch of things for me to lock. So here we use close again to make him hand lock another card. And then here he uses to lock a starter. And in conjunction with close and universe, we'll force 2 hand locks out of him. So he'll have 1 open circle to play with if we even allow it, because we can definitely just use the grade 2 locks from drop as well to just clog up his entire board. Yeah, we CC2 after using the zinc. We call off the calling maker. We use this. We lock his rear, and now he has 2 hand locks in queue at the start of his next turn. And here I do decide to use it, so I burn all my CV, which kind of sucks, but my opponent's already at 5, so he'll probably die next turn anyways. Doing it like this, his board may have 2 locked cards, right? His board has 2 locked cards, but with this, his board ends up getting clogged up by 2 hand locks and 1 lock from drop, so he just has a fully locked board next turn. So, but we won't even get to see that because my opponent just dies. But yeah, basically in that situation here, I basically set it up so that even if he lived, he'd have to lock the last card in his hand. And although he wouldn't have a fully locked board just because his hand, he wouldn't have the hand for it. If he had all 3 cards, he'd still have to lock the last card in hand, so he still loses the card of his hand. He has to lock his rest back row as well, and then he just has a hope he's the stride plotter there. So hand lock good in more ways than one. Forces the card out of the opponent's hand as well as clocking their board, obviously. So that's it for the first game. And the second game we play against Luard. This is also a deck where you need to know the matchup, and I think the game is pretty much decided by does the Luard player know the matchup. So spoilers, I think if Luard allows for Chaos to just do its thing, you just play a normal game out, I think Luard basically loses guaranteed every single time, as long as the Chaos player is like Omega Brick or something. But if the Luard player is smart and damage denies the Chaos player and just tries to slow the game down, give them as little CB to work with possible every single turn, I think the matchup is very, very doable for Luard. And speaking of damage deny, I think that is in my opinion at least, the most proficient way to beat Chaos. I think if you deny Chaos that first CB, the deck really struggles to get rolling, because you really want that one CB for the Crisis to like turn your deck on, right? Because once you get that one lock on off the Crisis, all your skills that need a lock card will activate, and if you don't give them that one CB, a lot of their skills they just can't use, right? Because a lot of this deck's costs are like CB1, CB1, CB1. It adds up a lot, but you know, if they don't have that one CB to work with to begin with, they can't really do anything. And even if you hold them at that one CB, right? You hold them at that one CB, yes, they can keep countercharging it, but it ends up just becoming like a waste of a zinc because you only CC'd one, so it kind of feels really bad for the Chaos player, anyways. And also, if you don't have a CC, don't have any CB open, if they need soul, the only way they can get soul is if they go into zinc, and that just feels really bad too because they're not CCing anything out of it. So, from my personal experience, I think the way to beat this deck is or make this deck play a very awkward game is to deny them damage on their first stride. Going first or second, you just deny that one damage. So you keep them at 0. So so you don't let them do anything. So because you had to do that, yes, they have strides that lock for no cost or no CB cost at least. They'll run out of soul, and again that leads back to the problem with using zinc to get their soul back. It feels really, really bad. So because of that, I think that's just the way you have to play to beat the deck. And here, opponent dealt me damage. I burn the one CB on that. I'm just thinking what I want to go into first stride. But you'll quickly see here, this game will quickly spiral out of control for my opponent. So yeah, so here's me going to Alththani because I probably want to draw some cards. Alththani locked the 1 because you know he locks 2, and if you don't lock 2, you draw 1 as well. So draw 2 as well. So you lock the 1 and you draw 2. And then here forces another hand lock as well. So he'll have 3 lock circles, and Luard does actually need a bunch of open circles to actually do anything. And here, this wasn't really a case of my opponent damage denying me or anything. This is more of a case of This is more of a case of I healed, so I didn't have that one extra CB to work with. But here I mainly use it just to get soul back because I already burnt 2 soul on one on Alththani and one on what's his face, and one on the Crisis, not Crisis, the Close. So I mainly did just to get the soul back, but the one CC back is still very nice. So here we don't really overcommit. Agama isn't really a threat because he doesn't have a board to play with. So yeah, so at most here we would get Agama for 2, which isn't the worst thing in the world. So yeah, here opponent does that. And then Luard does some Luard things with 2 open circles, which for Carnivore of all things, not the best thing in my opinion, but he does pop it. See, don't now see a point of Carnivore here because he already popped it anyways with Dragfall Stride bonus. But I guess he wanted the power off of this, so he sacks that off, power, and he swings at me twice, and that's all he does. And now he has a full board of locked front row stuff now, and he'll just get the entire board locked again next turn. So it sucks to be him. And another thing is that Luard doesn't really play any strides that like stack off their own board anymore. The only real card they play that does that is Reichstrider, and that really isn't a thing you go into every single game or at all. But yeah, and my opponent flips stand heal here, which against any other deck would probably suck, obviously, because you know, he healed on twice and he pushed extra damage for no reason. But we are playing Chaos, and we are going to tell him that he can't play the game too. So we pop the deck down the back that we forced out of his hand, and now we have all the CB we would need to do our stuff, and we're just going to lock him down, and he's not going to be able to play the game next turn. And here I'm just deciding, do I want just a guaranteed board lock with the what's his face, with the my god, the glue ball, yeah, the glue ball, or I want to force a hand lock out with what's his face, with the universe. So here we soul blocks 1 for the Close, and here we lock another. We lock the back row with the universe. We CB1. We lock a card and force another hand lock out of him. And in here, I'd probably just call down, just call down a few Zinks, just fill up the board and swing. The thing here, even though even though I don't actually get like a full front row lock and full board lock here, he still force lock 2 out of hand, so he has 1 circle to play with. And because he only ends up having 1 circle to play with, he actually can't go into Drag Abyss, which is like the Zek's like main stride. Because he only has 1 open circle, Drag Abyss costs 2. If he doesn't call 2, you can't retire 2. You can't retire 1, so you can't really do anything anyways. And here we just call a bunch of Zinks, mainly it's boosters here more than anything, but obviously we can use the Zinks next turn if we want to. So here we just swing, no defensive, and we just keep going face. And as you see here, I purposely left 2 CB open for myself, so next turn if I want to go into Stark, I can. Because we did go second, so our 3rd stride will be next turn, and that means we have enough face up for our 0th Dragon stride. So here we just swing, swing face, push him back to 5 after he healed down. He has the lock 2 from hand. Yeah, so he locks 2. He goes into harmonics, just whatever. I don't care at this point. I have 2 cards in hand, which is the entire hand, which is like whatever. Because you know, if he's on harmonics, that means he can't actually do anything threatening. At most, he flips. I guess double stand would kill me here because this retires 1. He will rear and then. But actually, never mind. It wouldn't kill me because he needs the boost on every column. So there's actually nothing here that would kill me. So. He just swings, does whatever. He actually does flip double stand, but you can see the boost on both columns. It actually doesn't kill me. I have the 2 cards needed to survive this. Okay, so heal the PG off the harmonics, and then the heal from this, and then we get to Stark it next turn. And a cool little thing you can do with this deck is because you can't actually get that first lock. So here I don't actually have it. I'll just like give you the video clip, but here I don't actually have it. But if you have an iron in hand and the open CV for it, and two crises in hand like this, you can ride crisis. You can re-ride crisis, use a skill to CV1 and lock anything, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, just lock them. You can get a lock circle, and then so you do this. That's 1 CB. You do it again. Starkest 2. Basically, if you have 4 CB or some way to CC, you can do this, and then since you have 1 card locked down, you can actually use iron to lock an additional front row. And obviously, if your opponent doesn't unlock stuff like here, you can just pop a front row with on your preemptively for your stock turn, so you can actually hit face more times. Yeah. So here, I don't have the iron, obviously, like I said, but that is a play you can do basically if you have if you have the CB for it and the iron hand and the extra ride and the discard for it. Basically, if you have everything, that is a play you can do. And here, you just see me swing with Stark twice, not because it was optimal order anyway. I just thought to myself, I paid for this card, I'm going to swing with it multiple times. So yeah, no reason there for me to actually go into Stark at all, realistically speaking. But you know, you paid for a Zeroth Dragon, you're going to use it. So yeah. So that's it for the deck. That's it for this deck profile. Tell me guys what you think about this deck down below in the comments. Like and subscribe, all the good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.